Greetings, Corpse Clubbers, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Corpse Club, the official podcast for DailyDead.com. My name is Heather Wixson, and if you've been paying attention, over on Daily Dead this month, we have been celebrating Indie Horror Month all month long, and we're going to be continuing to do so over the next few weeks as well. And so for this week's episode, I am joined by Michelle Swope, and we are going to be celebrating the films of Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, the Gas Money Kids. So first and foremost, Michelle, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think I was like, oh, I should write something about, Benson and Moorhead. And then I was like, I feel like a discussion is probably more apropos. And then it was funny because then we were talking and you're like, I want to write a piece about, their films. And I was like, well, how about this? Why don't we just come together and we'll talk about them?
Absolutely. There's so much to talk about.
There really, really is. And I'm somebody who, it was funny because I was thinking about this the other night because I was like, why am I doing Indie Horror Month? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I killing myself over all of this? And I thought about like the different independent horror movies that really sort of reinvigorated me as a fan over the years. Yeah. And like one of the ones that I really thought about that really became so pivotal to me, like when I first got into this industry, was Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Oh, yes.
I saw that at a Flashback Weekend convention in 2007, and I just was completely blown away. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like unlike anything like I've seen, because at that point I was mostly consuming like studio horror because that's really what was coming out in the theaters around me. And so I was thinking of like other movies, and a really, really big one for me was Resolution. And what's really great about Resolution is, besides the fact that the movie is amazing, my little sort of fun backstory to that is that when I first saw the movie, I was like, this is amazing and I need everybody to watch this movie. And right around the same time, I was approached actually by Mike Kurz, who runs Flashback Weekend. He also works for the Movico theaters, which they have a couple of theaters in Chicago, and they also have a few out here in California. And he was like, hey, I can get you a theater for a weekend. Would you want to do something? And I was like, I would love to do something. And so I was really fortunate in 2013 that I was able to do this thing called Cinemayhem Film Fest, which ran out of the Movico in Thousand Oaks here, California. And when I realized that I was going to be able to do this, the very first movie that I reached out about showing was Resolution, because I thought if I could get people into a theater to see this movie who may not know anything about going into it, my hope is that like they're going to take away something from that experience the way that I did. And to me, honestly, that's like, I've done a lot of really cool stuff in my career over the last almost 15 years now, but that is definitely a top 5 moment for me personally, just because I wanted people to understand that you didn't need huge budgets and big name actors and things like that to tell stories that could push the boundaries of what was possible with storytelling. So that's
exactly.
why,
and that's why I love indie horror so much, because
it's a real place where risks are always being taken. So
yes.
Did you get to see Resolution when it first came out, or was it something that you kind of came across in the following years?
I have a backstory, but it's not as cool as yours. Yours is so cool. Before I was a writer, my husband and I ran this little Facebook horror page years ago, and we gradually became friends with like various people in the horror community. And we somehow had become really good friends with Bill Edwards Jr. And he started telling us about this movie he had done. Another fun fact, Bill Edwards Jr. did this unbelievable voiceover for The Haunt where we worked.
Oh, really?
I don't think anyone knows that. It was so cool. He took the time and did it just as a favor to us and read like there was like a backstory to The Haunt, and like it was creepy. And it was, as you came into The Haunt, you would hear Bill Edwards Jr. reading this long like backstory to the haunted attraction. And I worked at The Haunt, so I got to hear it every night like 1,000 times. But it was just so cool that he took the time to do that. But yeah, around the same time, he told us about this movie he had done, and he was so excited about it. And so we sought out the movie, and that's how we discovered Benson Moorhead, is because of Bill Lewis Jr. And I kind of love that. So
Oh, that is amazing. And Bill is like such a sweetheart too.
he is the nicest person on the planet. He is so nice.
Yeah, and hugely talented.
Yes.
It's one of those where I'm waiting for him to get that like little role in like a big thing where like people are going to realize that they've sort of slept on him for so many years.
He's got so many great performances over the years. And I just, I'm just like you. I want more people to know who he is because he's so talented.
Well, for those of you who are listening, if you haven't seen Resolution or any of the films we're going to be discussing, we're obviously going to probably get into some spoilers. So just a fair warning that we are going to kind of go into these, different aspects of this. But I will say, if you haven't seen Resolution, it is currently streaming. I know at least on Shudder at the moment. So,
Yes.
if you haven't taken the time to see it yet, go ahead and pause it, pause this, go watch, maybe catch up with the other Benson Moorhead joints and then come back to listen to this. Because I don't think you can really talk about what makes Resolution so incredible without kind of going into some of its more intricate aspects. And I think for me, that's what the beauty of Resolution is because it starts off so like innocuously, where it's like a guy going to help another friend out in terms of beating his drug addiction. And then the way that they sort of layer in all of these themes in terms of like media consumption and like this sort of time loop element, and sort of this monstrous presence. Like, I think for me, that's why, like, the first time I watched it, I was so incredibly drawn in by the performances from Vinnie Caron and Peter Salela or Kalela. I'm not sure if that's which one of those is right. So I apologize if you're hearing this, Peter. And then it's just like, there's a moment where like, you're like, wait, what the hell is happening here? And how is this even possible? Yeah. And I think for me, that's like what perfectly sums up a Benson Moorhead movie, is that there's always this moment where you're like, you think you're watching one movie and then suddenly they're like, oh no, we're playing a completely different game and we're going to blow your minds.
Yes. I've made jokes online about them breaking my brain, but I feel like every one of their movies has broken my brain in a good way.
Yeah.
And you can just think about this stuff like forever. I mean, like a time loop, it just goes on and on and on. There could be all these possibilities. There's just so much there to think about.
Yeah.
And I think the story.
Yeah. And I think what's also amazing too, is like, there's so many folks out there who, and I that are aspiring filmmakers who think, that there's that there's certain ways that you have to do things, to make a movie and things like that. And I think, what you see from the work of Justin Benson, Aaron Moorhead, and even, their producing partner, Dave Lawson, is it proves that like you can go make a movie for zero money,
right.
For as minimal money as you have. And you can make a great film still. You don't have to go and get $500,000 because I think Resolution cost them somewhere like around $20,000 to $25,000, if I'm not mistaken, which blows my mind to this day still. Yeah,
me too. And I'll just throw in Jeremy Gardner for a second here because he shows up in some of their films.
Yes.
I love to talk about to people how he made The Battery for $6,000. Like, what?
Yeah, that still blows my mind too.
Yes. And so I kind of put Jeremy and Justin and Aaron and Dave kind of in a group together, sometimes because they work together, I guess. And they're, I think of them sort of as a group as far as indie filmmakers and what they've been able to do with, not a big studio budget. The movies that they've been putting out, first of all, they're so incredibly talented as far as being writers and cinematographers and all of that. But then they manage to make these amazing stories with just a little bit of money, and they do show that it's possible if you're a filmmaker. You don't have to have a big studio behind you to make a good movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's like such a testament to who they are as sort of these creative forces. And I think we've seen it time and time again through the other things that they've done. But I think for me, what I really loved about, that sort of initial experience with Resolution was how it sort of challenged me as a consumer of media by ultimately creating this story where you're feeding this like entity stories, and you can't leave because it just desires these experiences in a way, which again, I'd never really seen ever presented. I've never seen somebody sort of like, we've all seen sort of like the creative monster come into play in other horror movies, but never like this. And it's one of those movies where it's such a high concept that it really is kind of hard to believe how much they were able to pull off with as little resources as they had. But I think, again, that's, credit to, Justin and Aaron, as well as Peter and Vinny, because their performances, it's one of those things, like, even if you're just renting it casually and you may not even be the biggest genre fan, I guarantee you're going to get hooked at some point because of those two guys and their story and their journey here, and sort of this, mystery box that's like, kind of unfolding throughout the story. That honestly, like, it just made me excited again to be a horror fan, because I was like, this is what I want more from this genre. I want people to come to me with these really like bizarrely out there concepts, but present them in a way that feels somehow relatable and somehow, applicable to my everyday life, which doesn't seem right because I'm not trying to get somebody off crack. I don't have anybody, handcuffed to a pole or anything in my house, but yet there's something really relatable about the journey that Michael and Chris, the main characters of the story, take. And it's just such a beautiful exploration of friendship and media, and just creates this wonderful mythology that I was just so excited to have them go back and then re-explore that, when they had a little bit more resources and a little more experience under their belts, when they did the Endless, in like, I think it was 2018.
Yeah, Benson and Moorhead, I just feel like, are so good at creating characters that feel real. Like you said, they're relatable in some way. Maybe not their situation, but the characters themselves. They're really good at telling stories about relationships, like you said. That they're really good at that, and that kind of, I think, is what draws you in. And then all the crazy time loop stuff starts going on, and it's very reminiscent of Lovecraft in the way that whatever the being is, whatever the entity is, it feels a lot like the old ones.
Yeah.
From H.P. Lovecraft stories. But different, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's just like Lovecraft, but it makes me think of that in a way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I could see sort of the Lovecraftian comparisons. I mean, especially I think once you get into the Endless, especially because it feels like, they sort of build upon some of the things that they hint at in Resolution.
Right.
And then sort of fully develop them more in the Endless, but then also in a way that, like, they give you more pieces of the puzzle, but yet I still feel like, there's more to discover from this world, where I'm like, you guys have done 2. Do you think you could do 1 more? That would be cool.
Yeah. And I know I went into the Endless blind. I had no idea what it was going to be about, but I was just excited that it was a Benson Moorhead movie. And of course came out with my brain broken again, because they have created what I always call it the endless universe. They've created their own universe, and they keep telling us these stories from within that universe, but you can just expand on each one. You can just, talk about this forever. Your brain can go to all these different places as far as people being stuck in these time loops, and how is that happening? And the loops are all like different amounts of time. Like there's the guy in the tent, and he's about like 15 seconds or something.
Yeah.
And which is really crazy. And then there's Shitty Carl, who they meet, who you hear his name in a couple of the other movies. people
Yeah,
reference Shitty Carl, but
yeah,
we meet him in the Endless, and he's
yeah.
on, I forget, is it 3 hours? He's on a totally different amount of time, his loop, before it resets. And so you can just think about this, the possibilities of the universe. At least I do. Every time I rewatch their movies, I think about them for a long time because, you can just imagine, is it this? Is it that? Within this universe they've created.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's funny because I remember, so I was at Fantastic Fest, I think it was 2016. And there's like a little coffee shop in this same area where the draft house is. And that's usually like where I would go and work between screenings and things like that, or like after interviews before like my evening of screenings would start. And so I was sitting there and I looked up and Justin Benson was standing in line for coffee. And we've gotten to know each other like over the years because of, Resolution and things like that. And I was like, oh, hey, dude, like, how's it going? And stuff like that. And he was like, oh, hey, we just finished a movie. And I was like, oh, that's so exciting. And this was like, of course, after spring and stuff. And we'll talk about spring, of course, too. And he was like, I guarantee you're going to love it. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay. Like, I mean, of course I'm going to enjoy it because it's you guys, but like, how do you guarantee that I'm going to love it? And because they knew how much I was invested in Resolution and how much I pushed that movie, like when it came out and things like that. And so I was just like, all right, I don't know what that means. And I remember so I'm watching Resolution, or I'm sorry, watching The Endless finally, comes, and I think it was part of, because I think I screened it for part of the Tribeca because I was covering it remotely. And I knew like that the brothers characters that they play in The Endless, were of course in Resolution, which I was like, okay, this is interesting. But there's like this certain moment when they show up back at the house from Resolution. And I swear to God, I jumped out of my couch and I was like, what the hell are we doing? And I literally paused the movie and I messaged them on Twitter. And I was like, oh my God, you guys, what are you doing here? I was like, this is crazy. I'm so excited. And once I realized, like, I knew that they were playing around with the same rules as Resolution, but once they were able to go back into that world and make it feel even more fully fleshed out,
yeah,
I was stunned. Like that to me was like a holy shit moment. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, and I said, you were so right. I totally love this.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those, I was just like, it was like so exciting to me as somebody who like, I love this kind of stuff. Like I grew up, in my teens watching X-Files. I love things that have like mythologies that are layered and you feel like you have to like spend time really thinking about them. And they did that with these movies. And I was just like, I can't believe this. I can't believe you were able to do a sequel that like explores these things in this way, but then also builds upon them in such really clever ways that I never could have expected.
Yeah, I had a very similar reaction when I saw, like I said, I went in blind to The Endless. I had no idea it was going to be related to Resolution. So I had a similar freak out while watching it. Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. The minute that they go to the cabin and you see, Chris and Michael,
it's the cabin
like,
and everyone's in the same clothes and like, you're just like, what?
Yes. Very similar reaction. Oh my God.
I would have expected like a really close substitute, to be honest, because it's been like, 6 or 7 years. I get it. Time moves on. But like, especially when you have like, Vinny still wearing the hat.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, he saved the hat. And it looks like it's been sitting there for years now because they're in this loop and stuff. And I was just like, oh my God. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. But exactly. That's exactly how I was. Like the moment you realize that it's connected is just such a, exploding brain moment. Just, yeah, I had the same reaction.
Yeah. It's fun too, because it's like, again, it's one of those things when you're working at a certain level in the industry, you expect things to be sequelized, right? Like, if you're making a Halloween movie, chances are you're going to be making a sequel. Yeah. And I was thinking about it, like we don't get a lot of sort of independent horror franchises. Like I know VHS is one that I can think of, but they're not particular, like they're connected to a certain degree. Like I know certain elements of 1 and 2 play into viral a little bit, but it's not like an ongoing mythology to the certain same degree as like Resolution and Endless. And I was trying to think of like other ones that have sort of done this, and I can't really think of many, or couldn't think of any others, honestly, but that just could be because my brain is broken.
No, there's not. I can't think of any either. You're right. I think this is so unique and groundbreaking in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, and again, The Endless right now I know is on Shudder. It's on a few other streaming services. And if I'm not mistaken, I think a few weeks ago, Aaron had tweeted, I think they put the movie on YouTube for free.
They did. They sure did. It's on YouTube for free. You're right. It was a couple of weeks ago. And if you're having trouble finding it, Aaron Moorhead definitely tweeted a link.
Okay. I was like, did I dream that? I don't even know anymore sometimes.
Yeah, he did. He did. He actually did. I retweeted him because I got excited that, hoping maybe there's somebody out there who hasn't seen this movie and I feel like needs to see this movie because their stuff is just so amazing and they've never ever disappointed me.
Yeah. And it's great too, because I love that you mentioned Shitty Carl, because like, of course, he's a character that gets mentioned in Resolution quite a bit. And then also he's also, we get a Shitty Carl reference in Spring as well, before Lou Taylor Pucci goes to Italy, which is fun.
I was going to say that because I had forgotten about it until we rewatched it the other night. And I was like, oh my God, Shitty Carl. And Vinnie Curran plays
the bartender,
Chris, right? Who mentions? So then my brain started going. I'm sure you can guess where my brain went. Then I was like, oh my God! Did I never think about Spring being a part of the Endless Universe somehow?
Which is interesting because Vinnie also plays a character named Mike in that, though, which is interesting because then in Resolution and The Endless, he plays Chris. And the other character is Mike. So I'm just like, it's almost like it's like this, like almost like a reinterpretation in a way.
I need to have a conversation with Justin and Aaron about this because I just realized it the other night when I've never watched all their movies back to back to back like I have for like the past week. I usually watch. It has been really fun because I've noticed little things like that where I went, oh my God, how did I never think about that? So yes, we have questions, Justin and Aaron. If you're listening to this, we have questions about whether
we need to have conversations about this.
Yes, we need to, because that's so interesting, isn't it? He plays a character named Mike. Who's the character from Resolution? I don't know. It might be in the same universe. And I never thought about it until now. So
yeah, but I remember like when I first saw Spring and I saw Vinnie pop up, and I was just like, oh yes, this is great.
Yeah.
And of course you mentioned Jeremy Gardner, who is Lou Taylor Pucci's character, Evan, his buddy back home and stuff like that. So of course it's fun to see Jeremy pop up in here, is just hanging out and trying to be a supportive friend and all that. But yeah, for me, like Spring is a movie I watch a lot because it's so damn romantic and it's so charming and I love it. And I've also I just really wanted to go to Italy like my entire life. So Evan kind of like lives out my dream to a degree in this movie where he's like, I'm just going to get on a plane and go wherever. And, I guess I'm going to Italy. And then ends up sort of like having his life completely changed by the experience, and not like a under the Tuscan sun kind of way. It's a very different sort of way.
Yeah.
But it's one of those I think actually my other half actually gave me the Blu-ray for Valentine's Day because he knew how much I was in love with the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a great Valentine's Day movie. I love to watch it. I can
be a little bit of a softie sometimes. And Spring definitely taps into that because it's such a beautiful movie. And And I really love uh, Nadia Hilker in this movie a lot. And apparently she's on Walking Dead these days, which I don't really watch.
Me either, but I
But
did
I'm
see
glad
that
she's
she
out
was
there
on it.
doing stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So was
Definitely.
this one that you got to see when it first came out, or was it? Did you catch up to it afterwards?
Probably a little bit afterwards. But I agree with everything you said. I occasionally, maybe if there's a little horror involved, will indulge in a romantic movie. But this is such a beautiful story, I think, which might sound weird, if you haven't seen the movie, since Evan basically falls in love with a monster. But yeah, I just think it's such a beautiful story, and just the way that the characters interact with each other. They're in this new relationship, but it goes kind of fast. And I just especially love the ending. It just makes me cry every single time because it's just,
Yeah,
it
I
just
still
breaks my
cried.
heart. Yeah.
Yeah,
I cried the other day. I said, I've
I
seen
did
this movie a
too.
million times. Why am I crying about this? Yes, me too. Exactly. It's just such a beautiful story, I think, and perfect for Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
And they've also got some really cool creature effects.
it does, and that I believe that's Todd Masters from Masters Effects that spearheaded their effects for it, which is pretty awesome because he's
Yeah, he's
he's he's
great.
really good at that stuff,
He's
and he's
great.
really good at being able to sort of he's always been really good at being able to have an eye for practical effects that'll blend really well with the digital, because he had to do that for the Borg Queen. I think that was like one of the first instances that he did it in his career. So that's why, and it's not like they made Spring with like a $2 million budget or anything like that. So having somebody like that,
Yeah.
behind your work is really helpful. It makes me wonder, like, how is Lou Taylor Pucci like not like a bigger star? And not that it's saying he's not doing good things, because like I remember seeing him gosh, I met him like a year or two later in Ava's Possessions, which is a movie that I feel like doesn't get enough love. I don't know if you ever saw that, but
I
he's
have
pretty good in
not
that.
seen that.
That is, I will tell you, that is a super duper fun uh, take on like what you expect of a possession movie, and it kind of flips it completely on its head in ways that I was not expecting. So that's one that I really recommend to people to check out, because I don't feel like it's a movie that got enough love, because it kind of did like the festival circuit and stuff and got like a little limited release and stuff. But I was really, really surprised at it. And actually, it's funny that I remember this, but it's the first screener I ever watched with my dog. Because he has this habit, even now, 7 years later, he has this habit of curling up half on my lap, half on like my laptop tray, and I have pictures of him watching Ava's Possessions with me. So that was his first screener.
Oh,
When I
that's
was a
so
little
sweet.
tiny pup.
I've heard nothing but good things about that, though. I need to put it on my watch list.
I highly recommend it, and then you'll have to let me know what you think. But it was one of those
Yes.
movies where I was like, oh, okay, possession movie, like whatever. I can take possession movies about as much as I take zombie movies. I'm just like, all right, whatever, we'll see what happens. And so when they surprise me the way that Ava's Possessions does, like I was just like, oh, hell yes.
You've got me excited to watch it now. So
Good. I figure it's probably fun to talk about, considering it is indie horror month, and that is an indie horror movie. But yeah, I was trying to think about it, and I think the last thing I saw him in, and I don't really regularly watch the show, but we did watch that season, but it was American Horror Story 84, because he's in a few episodes of that.
that's right. And my husband and I said the same thing when we were watching Spring the other night. Why haven't we seen this guy in more? I had to like Google, where has he been? I don't know why he's not a bigger star.
Yeah,
I think he should be.
if I had the wherewithal and the resources to make a movie, he's one of the people I would like try to go after.
Absolutely.
So, because he's so good at Evil Dead. God, is he just, boy, his character. I'm trying to. Oh, Eric, that's what it was. His character Eric is just like this punching bag throughout that movie in so many glorious ways. But I like him in Spring, because he's a guy who's really like, he's screwed up a lot in his life, obviously. And he's at sort of this weird place where he doesn't know what to do. He's lost his mom. He's in a bad situation because he decided to pick a bar fight with, I believe, gosh, hold on one second. I'm trying to think of the name. And so I'm looking it up really quick to make the reference so I don't sound like a total dork. But I'm pretty sure he has a fight with one of the drug dealers from Resolution because it has the same hat.
Oh my God, did I not catch that? See, now we're gonna need to have a talk with Justin Aaron.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's the same drug dealer. And because he has like the San Diego hat on and the gorilla and stuff. So I'm pretty sure.
Oh my gosh.
I think it is. But yeah. And
these and then all have to be Easter eggs, they have to be. There's no way they can't be Easter eggs.
It's so intricate, and then he's like, I'm gonna go start my life over and go work at an olive farm, in Italy. And I'm like, I want to do that.
Exactly. But he's also relatable in a lot of ways, like we were talking about earlier. And that's how their characters always seem to be. They feel like real people.
Yeah. And the chemistry between Lou and Nadia in that movie is like phenomenal. Like, first of all, she is amazing.
She is.
The way that she draws you in with like this sort of like quiet confidence, like she doesn't even have to be loud about it. She's just like sort of matter of fact about things.
Yes.
And it's just so damn like, it's sexy. Like,
she is gorgeous.
Yeah. I'm straight, but she is sexy in that movie.
She is gorgeous. I just fell in love with her all over again every time I watch this movie.
And I think also too, what I love about the stuff that they do is, again, when I talk about like the movies that sort of make you think about things, that they throw a lot of like science at you in this movie as well, because of sort of her character Louise's predicament, where she's sort of this evolutionary creature, who, and they talk about like sort of like different like creatures and things over time and different moments in history. And it's just like, who the heck comes up with this? And I mean, it's Justin, I believe he mostly writes like their stuff. And it's just like, how do you wrap your brain around some of these concepts in a way that like, it's really incredibly smart and like thought provoking, but also like accessible for dummies like me who don't like have the benefit of the knowledge of like the evolutionary history of like, creatures and things like that to this degree. It just blows me away. That's
like, I know when I got to interview them about Synchronic when it came out, and I asked about quantum physics for obvious reasons. And that's the first time I found out that Justin used to be a medical student. So
I remember that. That might have at some point.
And I think a lot of this sciencey stuff goes back to that. At least that's the conversation we had about Synchronic.
Interesting.
So I would maybe suspect it's probably, similar situation in Spring. I haven't asked him specifically about Spring, but, I would guess.
So basically they've kind of created this movement of nerdy horror over the last 10 years, which is
they
kind of
definitely
awesome.
have. Yes.
I think I like nerdy horror.
I do too.
I think I'm at the point where I'm like, yes, I think I love nerdy horror. But yeah, I think the thing is, it's like, again, it's one of these things like, with Spring, and I've heard some people sort of say like, well, not a lot happens in the movie and then sort of things happen. And honestly, like, I don't care because I'm so invested in the back and forth between Evan and Louise in those movies. Like her sort of manifesting the changes that are happening, constantly to her body and stuff like that. Like we see a little bit after the first time they have sex, and then she has these like little outbreaks here and there, so I wouldn't call it like a hard horror movie by any means, but like, honestly, to me, I don't care because I love these characters and I'm so invested in their journey, in this story that like, if you can't see the value in that, like, then I don't ever want to hear you complain that like horror movies don't give you characters to invest in, because
Oh,
all of the movies that these
absolutely.
guys do, like, I'm invested in all of it.
I feel the exact same way. See, I'm so glad we like agree on all this stuff, because their work just gets me so excited. Just every single thing they do. And that's exactly how I feel about Spring. I am so invested in the relationship in the movie, and what's going to happen between them, because it's such a wonderful, sweet relationship. But there's that mystery, and yes, absolutely, you should be invested in the relationship if you're going to watch Spring.
Definitely. You mentioned Synchronic, which I will say, like, out of all other movies, is sort of probably my least favorite, which means I like it a lot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that's basically saying, like, for me, it's like a 3.5 to a 4 out of 5. Like, there's nothing that really goes lower than that. But I think for me, it's only because it feels a little more produced. And honestly, and this is totally on me, I have never liked Jamie Dornan. And I don't
Me
know,
too. Oh my God.
like, honestly, it wasn't until I saw Barb and Star where I was like, okay, I finally I get it with this guy. Because up until then, I was just not on board. I mean, I like Synchronic a lot, but if like I had to rank my Benson and Moorhead movies, like that would sort of be like it would be the lowest, which is still higher than a lot of movies that I saw the year that it came out, which I believe, gosh, that was 2020 already.
Yeah, or 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, it did festivals, I think, in 2019, and then because it was all part of the
That's
whole.
right. It had that pandemic. Yeah, pandemic time, man. Time. It's like I made a note, because I have like this fascination with the shot in Synchronic where someone has written time as a lie on the movie.
Yes.
Because that scene just hit me so hard, because it kind of describes all of their movies that are within this endless universe they created. And it just gives you so much to think about. And you can also refer to pandemic times, because time has no meaning since pandemic. So
pretty much,
I was
yeah.
trying to tie that in. I don't know if I did a good job with it or not, but
oh no, you did. Totally. And I think what's also interesting too is that in Synchronic, which by the way, I always have a tendency to want to call synchronicity, because apparently I must have listened to The Police a lot when I was growing up. So I always want to call it synchronicity. And then I always get reminded, no, it's Synchronic. And I was like,
I do that too.
Yes. But what's funny is that Anthony Mackie's character in that movie, his name is Steve Danube, which is interesting because the character in Resolution is Michael Danube. So it's almost like, again, this sort of like weird two steps removed from Resolution in its way, which I find really interesting.
Yeah.
And also it has, Bill Oberst Jr. is also in Synchronic as well. So
I think
amazing.
Anthony Mackie is so good in this movie. And I am sorry to all the Jamie Dornan fans out there, but I agree with Heather. I've never liked, and I was not ever into the 50 Shades thing, or any of that. It was never my thing. So I will admit, when I heard about the casting for Synchronic, I was a little disappointed, because I'm just not a fan of Jamie Dornan. But yeah, he's fine. He's fine here. But Anthony Mackie really is so good in this. He gives such intense, emotional performance with everything that his character goes through in Synchronic. And you really feel for him.
Yeah. No, definitely. And, and again, it's one of those things where the guy, he's dealing with sort of these really almost outlandish, proposition of sort of time and, and space, and sort of the space-time continuum and things like that. But there's also sort of these real life elements that are grounding him as well, which makes him super compelling. So I really, really do love him in there. And I will say that the dog scene in that movie still breaks my heart so much.
My husband is still upset about that scene.
I'm still upset. Are you kidding me?
But he didn't die. He's just, trapped in time, maybe with some KKK people or something bad, but I don't know. That's not making it sound okay, is it? But he didn't die.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe that was the dog that ends up being owned by Bill Oberst Jr. in Resolution.
Yeah.
Maybe somehow the looter guy from Synchronic ends up in a time loop that goes back to Resolution, and the dog is there. I don't know. I'm going to make it work somehow.
I actually considered that when we just rewatched everything back to back. Except the dog has a different, I can't remember what the dog's name is in Resolution. I can't remember, but I know
Bill could have renamed it.
That's right. He could have.
You never know.
Totally could have. But I did have the same thought. Somehow the dog has got to be in a time loop or something. It's got to be. I mean, maybe I'm just looking for clues where there aren't any, but I can't help myself. Benson Moorhead, every single movie they make, I'm like digging through the movie, trying to find does this mean what I think it does? Can I connect it to this thing over here? There's this universe going on. It's just gets me so excited, because you don't know. It could all be connected.
Yeah.
I mean,
I definitely turn into the Charlie Day meme where you've got the board with all the little Post-its and the red string and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I definitely turn into that meme myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. I realized also we skipped over their contribution to VHS Viral, which was Bonestorm.
Oh no.
And I'm curious. The VHS movies to me, I have such a weird relationship with them because I don't really love them. I love parts of them. The first one, I actually was super angry the first time I saw it. And I apologize, Brad Miska, if you're listening to this. I still think you're a great guy, but boy, that first movie made me very angry. And I remember leaving that screening being just super pissed off. And then VHS 2, I think, had some really, really bright spots. Obviously, Timo Tjahjanto's segment, Safe Haven, is probably one of the best things we've seen in modern horror. And then VHS Viral was one of those I was really excited about. And I really like the segments, but I hate the wraparound, and I feel terrible saying that. But I think Nacho's segment's really great. But I also think Justin and Aaron's segment is super fun because it feels like them, but then doesn't feel like them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. It does.
So
100%. Yes.
Yeah. And I like this idea of these skateboard kids going to Mexico. And of course, this idea of people sort of impeding in areas that they don't belong, and sort of the price that they end up paying for that. And having to sort of film it in a very non-traditional way, which I think, some of the aspects of, Resolution and, the Endless and things like that actually lends itself really well to that. But I will say the skeleton, once the skeletons come into play in Bonestorm, that made me super excited. And then I was bummed out afterwards that the rest of the movie didn't quite hit those heights.
Yes. I agree. We just agree on all of this. This works out so nicely. Somewhere in there, I don't remember. I don't have the year. They also did an episode of The Twilight Zone, which I forgot to write on my list.
Oh yeah, I
remember.
Yes,
it was in season 2 of the Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone, right?
Yes.
What year was that?
It was the first. I believe it was the first season.
Or, yeah, maybe it was. I forgot to write that down.
Oh, wait, no, I think it was second season. I'm looking really quickly right now. Yes, it was second season. But what's really cool is that they were directing an episode that was written by Glenn Morgan, who, of course, was an integral part of the X-Files. So that's kind of cool.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, I never had a chance to watch The Twilight Zone because I couldn't do another streaming service at the time. I didn't get screeners, and I was like, I'm sorry, I really want to watch it, but
I will tell you, I thought it was the episodes were kind of hit or miss. like it was almost like every other episode I liked.
Oh,
And
okay.
the next one will just be kind of okay. But Benson Moorhead's episode was awesome. I promise. It's really good.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but as a series, it was kind of hit or miss for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I just realized like Anna Lily Amirpour directed a few episodes for season 1 and season 2. So that's kind of cool. And I just realized that the final episode was directed by Osgood Perkins, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, it's also very good. That episode, big fan of Oz Perkins. Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of a hit or miss series, you know, like there would be an episode I loved and the next one was just okay. You know, that kind of thing. But like I said, Benson Moorhead's episode was really good.
Interesting. Yeah, it's one of those I always wanted to watch. I just never got the chance. So maybe one of these days, but it's like, it's one of those, I'm never going to get CBS All Access. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen.
I think we did like we signed up just long enough to watch it. Like we didn't keep it because it's smart. Something I need. Yes. I have like every streaming service. There's maybe one or two I don't have. So, and it's ridiculous to have that many streaming services. I think I'm an idiot, but yeah, if there's something special like that, I might just, if it's a service I know I'll never use, I'll just sign up like for 1 month, you know, or if they have a free trial, do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I know, it's one of those, like, I want to, yeah, it's like, I want to watch stuff on Paramount Plus, but I'm like, I already have way too many as it is. Yes. And I just can't do it.
Yes, that's how I am. But yeah, if you can get a 7-day free trial or whatever, if there's a free trial, do that, or just sign up for 1 month so you can watch whatever it is. I mean, I do this all the time because I just had everything. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, definitely. I know we should sort of talk a little bit about Something in the Dirt, but I think for this, we should definitely be spoiler free just because the movie is not out yet.
Yes, I can't wait to pick him out.
But I don't think it's been picked up for distribution yet.
I haven't. I don't think so. I haven't talked to Dave in a while. Dave is so awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyone who's listening, if you don't know Dave Lawson Jr., get to know him like through, you know, Benson Moorhead's work or Chattanooga Film Festival. He works with them a lot. He's one of the coolest guys in indie film. So I just throw a little shout out to Dave there because I love Dave. But I don't think I've heard about distribution yet. I saw it at Virtual Sundance.
Yeah, as did
I. You were
I.
at Sundance, weren't you?
No, Sundance was all virtual this year.
Oh no, so, for some reason I thought you were there.
Yeah, no, just South.
Blend together. Wrong festival. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. They all blend together at this point. But yeah, I don't understand it. Because again, it very much feels somewhat of a sort of the perfect, you know, Benson Moorhead type of vehicle for the stories that they like to tell. And it's super innovative. They really do a lot, especially considering the film is primarily shot in one location, except for when they kind of go around LA. And I don't understand why that's not a thing yet. Can we make that a thing? How do we make that a thing, Michelle?
Where did you?
Like, how do we get somebody to buy it so people can see this? Because we need to figure that out, I think.
I don't know, but I need for it to be out there in the world because I know not everyone got to see it for Virtual Sundance. But if you're a Benson Moorhead fan, yes, start a petition or something to get distribution for Something in the Dirt so we can all talk about it because there's so much to unpack in this movie. As soon as I finished it, I wanted to start it again.
I know, and we couldn't because of the way they screened it.
Right. The window was going to close. There wasn't time. And I was like, oh my God, I need to watch it again. Because again, it broke my brain. But one of the big things I took away, besides, you know, what happens in the movie, which we're not going to talk about because it's too much spoilery, it is so DIY. And I thought that was the coolest thing, like how they, you know, used all their own stuff and I think what happened was I remember seeing one of them, it might have been Dave, post a picture of the three of them on Twitter and saying, we just finished working on a project. And I got excited. Oh my God, they just went and made another movie. Oh my God. I got all excited. So I have been waiting for this since I saw that tweet. But then to see the movie and to see that they went off during the pandemic, just three of them. And they, there's parts of the movie where Dave Lawson is actually, holding things up, like helping out with some of the effects, not to give anything away. And I just thought the fact that it's so DIY was just made it that much cooler, at least for me.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, it's one of those movies, that throws a lot of concepts at you. Mm-hmm. And it was fun because when I interviewed them, I was talking to them about these things and they were just like, yeah, some of it we embellished, and by some of it, we mean a lot of it. But it sounds really good, especially because I was like in a math class at that point. I was just like, whoa, like, all right, I feel like I'm like watching something that applies to school in a way, because I'm like relearning math and all this stuff. But again, it's one of those movies that really throws some, what would seem otherwise, completely ridiculous concepts at you, but they find a really great way to sort of ground it. And I just sort of love that, like in a lot of these movies, they're just sort of centered around characters that are just average. Like nobody's like a medical school student who's like, saving lives. Like most of the times these are sort of down on their luck characters. And I think maybe, especially coming out of the pandemic, where a lot of us are feeling like we're getting hit pretty hard by life right these days in terms of like the prices of everything, gas being like $1 billion a gallon, and just feeling like we just can't get ahead or can't get a break. Again, I think that's why I really loved Something in the Dirt as much as I did, because it's just kind of these two sort of lovable losers living in Los Angeles. And I was like, hey, that's like me. I'm like, this is my life. And like, I'm like, this is, I totally get this experience. But yeah, I really hope that it's something, and I'm hoping maybe because of their involvement with stuff like Moon Knight, and I know that they were also, I think, announced to be doing some work with Loki season 2. I'm really hoping that raises their profile. Like, I don't want to lose them from the world of indie horror, but like, I want them to get the, as the kids say, their bag, and I want them to get paid and get, the money that they deserve, because they've been, really pushing themselves, for so long on this scale. Like, go get your money. Like, that's okay with me.
That's how I feel too. I love them and I love their work so much, and I want them to be super successful. But at the same time, I still want them to keep making these amazing indie films that just always hit me, just the right way. But yes, I do. I want them to get paid so bad, because they're not only so insanely talented, they're like super nice guys.
Yeah.
Like super nice. So I just want all the good things for them. So I totally agree with that. And which archive, besides Moon Knight, which I'm really enjoying, by the way.
I honestly, it's like, because of it's been such a wrestling focus in our house like the last couple weeks because of Mania season, which is only because we watch a ton of independent wrestling. So I've just been it was like, I think we put in 30 hours that weekend of watching stuff, which was just crazy. Thankfully I just worked through all of it, which was fine because I had a lot to do. So I just haven't had a chance to get into Moon Knight yet, but I'm forcing my other half to get started on that this weekend, because I was like, we need to.
Yeah, we started late, and I haven't seen, I think an episode came out last night. I didn't have time to watch. I haven't seen that episode yet, but we've seen the first 2 episodes, and I didn't know what to expect. I'm not into comics at all. I didn't know anything about this backstory other than what I had like read online or the synopsis, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm surprised at how funny it is. Oscar Isaac's really funny.
Interesting.
And he's great. Ethan Hawke is amazing because he's Ethan Hawke. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, honestly, like, I know nothing about the Moon Knight character, but I just was like, Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. Yeah, okay. That's all I need.
Yeah, that's how I was. And I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes, like a lot. I was shocked because I'm just not into like superhero type stuff or any of that. It's just not my thing. And I really enjoyed it. But I was also going to throw out there, they worked on Archive 81, which I was obsessed with, which is on Netflix, by the way. Great series on Netflix.
It's one of those I really wanted to catch up with when it was on, because it was like around the fall last year, right? Is when it premiered, or was like towards the end of the year. I feel like it was around Halloween.
I don't know if it was the end of the year or the beginning of the year. Time is the lie.
Oh, it was January. Okay. That makes sense because it premiered right when Sundance is happening. So that's why I was in a tunnel. I was like, why haven't I watched this yet? So I will have to give it a go. But I did see that they directed an episode entitled Tyranny Isles, which Tyranny Isles is one of my very favorite things ever. So
yeah,
I'm like, how do I ignore that? So
you haven't watched Archive 81 yet?
No, I do. It's just like, every week I'm like, here's 5 screeners, and then I have to watch a bunch of other things for like other projects.
There's so much content and never enough time. But
yeah, and I've been like,
I am dying to hear what you think.
Yeah, and I've been like super obsessed with From.
We're watching that too, which I have no idea what's going on.
Oh my God, wait till you get to episode 7 is all I'm gonna say.
That might be the one that we're getting ready to watch.
I was so incredibly tense that like I had to like pause it for a second after like some of the stuff that goes down in that, and like actually like go and get myself cold water out of the fridge because I was like, oh my God.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I still have to watch
that might be the episode we're on. That is so crazy that you said that. We have no idea what is happening. I have so many questions.
But again, I love the mysteries. I love sort of watching it all unfold. And of course, Harold Perrineau is just amazing.
He's great. So. Yeah. Well, if you like mysteries, I was going to say Archive 81. I think I watched the whole thing in like 2 days or something, which I never, ever do. I mean, I was obsessed. So
cool. All right. Well, I will give it.
After you finish everything else, there's so much stuff out there.
There really is.
There's never enough time for all these movies and shows. I feel like I'm always behind.
I know. Well, it was like one of those, like, and also like I was doing a show that covered Servant. So it was like I really had to immerse myself in Servant for 10 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, it's one of those, like I watched it, but then I had to like go back and really watch it to do these shows and stuff like that. So kind of cut into my time of like getting to watch some stuff for fun.
Right.
And then we embarked on our Sopranos journey because I never saw The Sopranos when it first came out.
I haven't either. I mean, I've seen a couple of episodes, but I never watched it all the way through. Somebody's probably going to mean tweet me for that, but I'm sorry.
No, it honestly, like, it's been really fascinating. So it's been hard to like, go out and watch something else where I'm just like, oh, but we could watch a couple episodes of Sopranos before we go to bed. So, that's where I'm at because we're in the final season of Sopranos now. So I'm just like, oh God, we're getting so close. And then of course my other half is just like, so we're going to start this again. Right. And I was just like, hold on. We have other shows we were going to watch too. So, but yeah, I'm so excited that, Justin and Aaron have been able to really branch out in new ways. So I hope we don't lose them forever. But if we do, they've given us enough to love and enough for us to really appreciate.
If we lose them, remember us, little indie horror fans. Remember us.
Yes, don't forget us, little people, once you guys go up and collect your Marvel bag, which,
exactly.
Again, can't blame you. Cannot blame you.
Oh, I know. That's exactly what I said to my husband. I said, you know what? Good for them. They got Marvel money now. This is awesome. But just like you said, I was like, but I don't want them to stop doing what they do so well. Please don't take that away from me. Yeah, I want them to make all the money. But
yeah, that was like when James Gunn first got announced for like Guardians, and I was like, wait, the guy who worked for Troma, which nobody gets paid when they work for Troma, I was like, is finally going to get paid like big bucks. Good for him. I was like, go get paid. Now he's getting DC money on top of it. Yeah, I was like, that's bananas to me. So
yeah.
So I'm always happy when sort of these indie horror guys get, or horror directors. I shouldn't say guys because, for example, somebody like Lee Janiak, who did Honeymoon, got to go and direct 3 different movies for Netflix last year, which is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, definitely. So, definitely. I'm just like you. I have always had a soft spot for independent horror or indie film in general. I just love. I consume as much as I have time for. And I'm always happy when someone moves up and, makes like big money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's sad you feel like you're losing, you feel like you found something special. Like I love to tell people about indie films.
Yeah,
To get
honestly,
the word out.
that's the thing that I love about the most about film festival experiences. Like, it's not necessarily being the first, because I never need to be the first person who tweets about a movie. I never need to be this person who's being super hyperbolic about the movie, because that happens like all the freaking time.
Oh,
but when you find those movies that you genuinely love and that speak to you, like, you feel like you've just like discovered like a new best friend or something. Like, it feels like this sort of magic connection. And, look, I'm never going to pretend that like we have important jobs or anything like that, because, a lot of us do this because we appreciate art. But I think honestly, like when I think about the last 2 years, I think without art, in all of its forms, like, I don't know how many of us really would have been able to come through, the pandemic without being able to have art to sort of indulge ourselves in.
I definitely agree with that. It's been, so much escapism.
Yeah. I'm never going to pretend I'm a brain surgeon or I'm curing cancer or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if I could turn somebody onto a movie, like, I feel like I've done something fun and something that maybe will improve somebody's life in some way.
Exactly. And if you get excited about it, like I get excited about a lot of these indie movies, you want to share that. You're hoping someone else will like the movie and that someone else will be excited by it. At least that's what I hope. And I'm like you, I don't care if I'm the first or whatever to see something, but if I see something makes me excited, I want to tell other people to watch it too. And, it helps the independent filmmakers, hopefully in the long run, to get the word out about these movies.
Yeah. So, for those of you listening, I would always encourage you, if you see something that genuinely excites you as a fan, and even if it's a studio movie, but like the best way, other than like, financially supporting, which not everybody can always do. But if it's something you see on streaming, but you can't go and spend the $20 on a Blu-ray or whatever, I'm never going to shame somebody who doesn't do that. I'm not somebody who's going to tell people that they're lesser of a fan because they don't have huge, extensive physical media collections. Like, we're all doing the best we can. But what I will say is, like, really, truly one of the best things you can ever do is just talk about the movies that you love, because you never know who out there is going to discover that and fall in love with it and somehow be impacted by that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's so important to spread the word about these movies.
Definitely.
I apologize if you just heard my cat. I think she's getting mad at me. She's outside the door making noises.
She's like, why are you still talking? I didn't hear her, so we're all good. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. But I really hope for those of you listening that, we're able to, hopefully, if you're still listening, you've seen, the work of Justin Benson Aaron Moorhead, or otherwise we've just ruined a whole bunch of movies for you. And I apologize, but we did warn you. And I just hope that, I want people to talk about them more. And, because I do feel like something like Resolution was a huge turning point for me as just a movie fan in general. But what they were able to build on from there, as sort of these creative forces, is something that I genuinely always appreciated and really admired about them. And I really hope that we get to continue to see work from them for decades.
Oh, me too.
And, the best way to do that is to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So real quick, Michelle, where can people find you out there in the internets?
At Daily Dead. Can definitely find me on Daily Dead. And I have a column on Bloody Disgusting now. And I have something I might have mentioned the last time. I have a really special piece on Wes Craven coming out in the next issue of Scream Horror Magazine, if you happen to get that.
Excellent. And how about on social media and such?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so bad at this.
You're fine.
I am Redhead from Mars on Twitter, but I do not have red hair. So, disclaimer.
Gotcha. And yes, as Michelle mentioned, of course, Daily Dead. Right now, we are in the thick of Indie Horror Month, and of course, you can always visit us every day of the year for all your news, reviews, and interviews and fun things like that. You can check us out at dailydead.com. I think I might have said that already because my brain is totally broken. For more information on Corpse Club, you can visit us over at corpseclub.com. And of course, follow us over at Daily Dead News on Twitter. For me, you can find me over at The Horror Chick. And right now I'm currently in the most current issue of Fangoria with actually 2 articles, which is crazy. But I was able to do 2 different articles for the current issue. And there's also Monsters, Makeup, and Effects Volume 1, which is currently out there for you to enjoy. And I think that's about it for me. I want to say thank you to our editor, Brian, for making us sound good. And for all those of you who have been listening to us for years now, we appreciate the support, and we could not do it without you guys. And until next time, everybody, stay scary.